All right. Let me adjust this. All right. So we're welcome to episode 196 of the 48-hour art check. We are creeping on 200, guys. It's kind of crazy.
2 weeks.
I know. It's nuts. For anyone wanting to create content, do a 48-hour art check. All right. So let's should we get into it?
Yeah.
The intro.
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So yeah. So I think we're all pretty slammed and busy. It sounds like. But we're making time for the 48-hour art check, so that's cool. So do you guys want to just get into it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. So let's talk about progress from our check last week. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Yep.
So Corey,
I'll go first here. So I am in a few more festivals: the Thinking Hat Fiction Challenge, Southeast Regional Film Festival, and I'm really excited about the DC Independent Film Festival. They seem to be doing a lot of really cool stuff. So those are those. A few more rejections with that, and then I also finished this animation for the secret project that I am announcing now. So Jim Lujan and I are going to do a animation show, kind of like this show, but specifically about indie animation.
Awesome.
And so here is the silent intro, but it'll have sound after I get off the air here and I put sound to it. So here we go. So that's it.
I
That's
love
awesome. I haven't even seen that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just
Super
made
rad.
it. So
So how's it going to work? Is it a separate channel? Is it like this where it kind of rotates around, or how are you guys doing it?
we haven't quite figured all that out yet, but it'll probably be on his channel and my channel, either both or one or the other. And we've kind of just the goal is basically to try to convince people who are on the fence to like get into animation and make stuff. And so we're just going to be talking about anything that might be a barrier to entry and why it's not.
I
So
love it.
Did you ever listen to the show that he did a long time ago, the Ghettomation? I think Kevin might have been on that too.
Yeah.
he and Kevin did one a long time ago
Yeah.
that he was talking about. I haven't listened to that. I just barely got into animation, so I feel like
that's true.
I'm just barely kind of introducing myself to this world. I mean, I've always liked it, but there's a big difference between enjoying something and getting involved in the community and everything. So
Yeah.
But yeah, so it'll be good. We'll probably have guests on. We're gonna do some deep dives into our process. He was showing me kind of how he does things today, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good because what he is good at, I'm weak in, and vice versa. And so it'll be kind of an interesting mix. And he's been doing it for a long time, and I'm new. So anyway, so it'll be great. So there's that. And then I also did a number of different kind of treatments and logos and that type of thing. So I'm just kind of working on all the different kind of deals that kind of go with building a new show. So all the assets and everything like that. So anyway, so that's what I got done. And a few other things that aren't super worth mentioning. I entered some stuff and just some basic paperwork, and anyway, so yeah. So that's me.
Cool.
Sweet. That's a lot. And
Yeah,
that's cool. I'm excited because Jim's a good dude and a fascinating guy. And then I think you're right. I think you guys will make a really good duo like on that. So
yeah,
that's
it'll
gonna
be
be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of pick his brain. But yeah, I was kind of surprised at how quickly I was able to get that done. I thought it would take me a little bit longer. But I've learned some shortcuts between the last time I did an intro. I was just watching our intro for the 48-hour art check, and that took me forever. So I think it was over a week. Anyway, and I did this in a couple days. So
You're getting fast. You're getting fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm amazed by what you're putting out there, especially the animation, because it's like, I always thought to me, that's why I don't get into animation, because it just takes so much time, but you're really pumping stuff out.
Thanks. Yeah. It's been fun.
Crazy.
So, and I showed the finished fish one, right? Did I show that one?
Did you show that last week? I don't remember.
Yeah, you did, but show it again.
Unless you added to it.
I haven't added to it. I just couldn't remember when I finished that. But let me see if that'll upload or not. But yeah, that's on. Maybe I'll just go to. That's taken a while. Let me just go to Instagram. But anyway, so I have that, and then I've been playing on TikTok a little bit too. It's interesting. It's still a little weird, and I'm not getting a ton of response, but it's interesting. So all right, let's see. Let me go share screen, and then there's that. So here's this one.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I saw the logo part, so I don't know if I saw it or I just missed it.
Yeah, and then I went through and I did. I think I did do this after the art check, because I went through and analyzed how I did each step, and so there's the squish of the wasp, and then here's the delay on the eyes, and so I did a bunch of drawovers to kind of explain how I did the different stuff. And then some speed drawings on the different pieces. So I'm really trying to make my Instagram posts worth it, as far as just engagement. Because the way that did we lose Josh?
I'm here.
Sorry. But the way that Instagram counts it is, if somebody clicks to the next slide of your carousel, that's considered an engagement. And then if they watch the video for, an amount of time, then that's the length of engagement. And so if you can combine videos and stills and get people to flip through carousels, it just increases your engagement rate. And so that's been super helpful. This is the first time I've had growth in a while on Instagram once I started doing carousels and stuff like that. So
yeah, I gave up on Instagram again. I did the one video you kind of showed me, helped me figure out how to get the video so I could actually upload it to my phone and everything. And I posted it, and at first I posted it once and I pulled it off real quick because I missed a step where you could format it, because I had made a longer version, and it put, it didn't do it the way it was cutting stuff off. So I went and reloaded it, and it's weird because it's in my feed or what, in my, if you go to my page, but it got zero reactions at all. I don't think anyone saw it because I started going through, scrolling, and I didn't even find it. So, and after that, I'm like, you know what? I've got so much other stuff to do. I'm just this Instagram thing is I don't even know how well it converts. So I'm not going to worry about it right now. Maybe, if I go to another challenge or something, but I was going to try to do that whole, try to do I wanted to do some inspirational things and some content that went along with the series that I'm doing on YouTube. But I had to put the kibosh on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, we got Victor and Tim in the chats. So how's it going,
Hey guys? Welcome.
So how about you? Do you want to go next, Scott, or?
Yeah, I can go. So I premiered another episode 2 of Making Comics 101. So far, people seem to still be liking it and everything. So it's pushing along. And I'll have another one on, I think, Wednesday and then Friday, and that's kind of the schedule. So main episodes on Monday, bonus kind of exercise on Wednesday, and then a quick tip on Friday. So that's what I'm doing for that on YouTube. And besides that, while I'm waiting to hear back from a client, I've just been going crazy on this whole like Amazon, like trying to build some passive income streams, Amazon merch and Amazon KDP to start off with. And now I'm trying to revamp my Redbubble, which I've had for a long time, but I haven't really like done anything with it. So, and it's changed a lot. There are like probably, it seems like, I don't know, 50 different products for each image you can upload on. I mean, I'm looking at this thing. I'll just kind of run through it. And I'm trying to kind of change my attitude a little bit, but like, so let's see, there's, all kinds of t-shirts, different styles of t-shirts, even like dresses and, obviously different kinds of phone cases and phone wallets and pillows and leggings and coffee mugs and tote bags and notebooks and clocks and bath mats and duvet covers and socks. I mean, seriously, everything. And everything has to be, I mean, you don't have to do all that stuff. Everything has to be formatted differently. So you have to go to, if you do it right, most people don't. Most people just upload it and then they just let it sit and it looks horrible. But, before I was of the opinion that, I kind of steered away from like Redbubble and those because the commission is pretty small. But since they have so many products, I've also kind of gotten away from the part of, I mean, there's certain things I won't put it on just because it doesn't look right. But, my goal right now is to hopefully not have to do freelance and not have to go back and work for somebody. So it's kind of like, I'm just trying to build whatever kind of, passive income I can. And if there's more products out there, I'm kind of trying to move away from the fact of like, oh, I don't want my design to be in a coffee mug type thing. So I'm okay with that now. But, so anyway, but I just, trying to, get all this stuff set up because I want to do it right, and a lot of it has to do with keywords and things like that. So that's kind of what I'm doing. There's something else I was going to say, but I kind of forgot. So, but it's all that, and there's more I want to talk about when we get the challenges, but that's kind of what I'm working on right now.
Cool. Let's see. So my progress so far, I'm inking, and so this is where I'm at. I don't know if you guys can see that too good.
Oh, yeah.
Does it hurt your arm to hold up a paper that size? Like, do you have to stretch first?
Now we know how he works out. It's just lifting that paper.
Yeah, it's true. Just crossing the distance is like jogging. So yeah, and it's not going as quick as I'd like, but we can kind of get into that with challenges. And then other than that, like, it's just, well, we'll get into it in challenges. So, all right. So we faced a lot of challenges as usual with creating, because creating is a process where inevitably there's going to be challenges and pitfalls. So let's get into that. Like, what challenges did you face getting your tasks done and stuff?
I'll go first because mine will be short. I think this is going to be one of the rare art checks where I can't really think of any challenges. I had the day off today, and so I was pretty much able to put in quite a few hours on Saturday and an hour or two yesterday, and then another 3 or 4 hours today. And I think the biggest challenge was like remembering to like get up from my chair and not, like be kind of like a hunched over mess. but yeah, I mean, it didn't snow, so I didn't have to go and do anything in the front yard or, like any of that. So our cars kept working. None of us are sick. I feel like we got in all of our challenges in the last couple of weeks, and now I'm like out of the woods. So yeah, it was great. And I know that won't last. So I'm trying to get as much done as I can in these sunny tropical times.
I love it. That's great, and I hope to hear more of that. All right, cool. Scott, what challenges did you come up against?
Quite a bit of challenge because a lot of this stuff is new to me. And some of it is just stupid, ridiculous. Like Amazon is like, it's insane with, almost every single design that I've uploaded has gotten rejected because of trademark. What they're saying is trademark infringement. And these are all my original ideas, my own original designs, but the way it works is so ridiculous. When you write out your description, if there's anything in that description, it doesn't have to be on the shirt or anything. Like, for instance, so I've got this design that says reach for the stars, just be careful, they're hot. And the whole idea is kind of like the Icarus thing, where, you want to go for, go for your goals and everything, but, kind of stay humble. So I put in the description, stay humble. That is a trademark for t-shirt. There's a t-shirt company. So I said, okay. So I'll just put remain humble. You can't put remain humble either. And again, this isn't on the shirt at all. This is just in the description. So constantly, anything like that. And so, and the rejections will pop up right away. And one of the things is like right now I'm at it's a tiered system. So I'm at the 10 tier because I'm just starting off. So I can only upload like 3 designs a day. And once I upload 10, that's it. I can pull them off and put them back on, or different ones or whatever, but I can only have 10. And I can't move to the next tier until I sell 10 shirts. So if you upload a design and gets rejected, you can't just re-upload it. That counts as one of your uploads for the day.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's just so stupid. So the rejections come back like pretty much right away. So obviously they've got some kind of bot that is scrubbing all this stuff for information, but for some reason, I don't know why, they can create a bot that can do this, but they can't create a bot that can tell you what it found so you can change it. You have to go through and try to determine what certain words in your descriptions and your keywords are the problem. So
it's ridiculous.
It's just stupid. Does that make any sense to you? I'm not a programmer, but if they can figure something that would pull out certain things that are a problem, it doesn't seem like it's anything to, when that email comes to me saying it's rejected, to say what the problem is,
The only thing I can think is they're trying to not help people game the system.
Oh, okay.
Because you're obviously not doing that, and you're
right.
But like somebody who is trying to figure out how to get by the system, if they told them like this was the word that triggered it, or whatever,
right,
that would probably help them. I don't know. It's just like everything else, like the crappy few people that aren't doing it right or have ill intent ruin it for everybody else.
Yeah. I will say there have been a couple of instances where I had a design that I uploaded and it got kicked back. And then at first, I've had these designs forever and I haven't seen them anywhere else, ideas that I pretty much came up with. And it's not even, again, it's a little part of that design, something in it, not the whole thing, not what I'm trying to say, but just little words. But it's getting to the point where it's almost like you can't say anything. Like, how are you supposed to describe something? Because everything is trademark. And if it's trademark, more than likely the trademark is for t-shirts. That's what most trademarks cover, because you can have different categories. But there's been a couple instances where it got kicked back and I'm like, oh, great. Well, how do I, like my nerd alert? I think nerd alert was fine, but what was it that I don't know what, there was something in there that, and it's also weird because you'll have certain things kicked back, and then you see other things on there that already have that. So I don't know if they uploaded those before and they haven't caught it or what, but there were a couple of instances where it got kicked back, and then I'm like, oh, what do I do? And then I came up with a better idea, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of good, because sometimes that'll happen when you have to really think about it, and I'm like, oh, I like that better than what I had before. So, so sometimes it's good, but there's that, and then that's sort of the Amazon merch, the t-shirts and stuff. And as far as the KDP, which is like the book publishing part of it, which I'm taking some of my stuff from my comic toolkit and I'm making some activity books out of it and everything. Yeah. So and that, they give you a template. So, I mean, I meticulously made sure everything fell in that template. And, and these are activity books, and they're not huge books. They're like 100 or so pages. So the spine is very thin. But I put the title along the spine, and I kept it within the borders according to their their template, and it got kicked back. So I'm like, okay, well, you need to update your template. So I made the type a little smaller and resubmitted it. And then I went, because this is a series, there's a number of different books in this series. So I went and changed all of them, and because they come back at different times, because they're like in the review process. So one will come back and it said it had a problem. I'm like, well, if that's a problem, it's going to be a problem in all of them. So I went and changed it. So I'm waiting for the next ones to come back, and some of them aren't. And evidently it's not there's no rhyme or reason to the way they determine this, because some of them were okay. So now I've got different size fonts throughout my series on the spine, because they okayed some with the larger font and some without. So, so it's just like, some of this stuff is just like, I don't know, man, it's ridiculous. But I think I don't know if it's just designed to like anything else, if the barrier to entry is super easy, which for a lot of people it is, I think that's why so many marketers are going in there and just flooding the market with, flooding Amazon with just hot garbage. Yeah. But I'm gonna stick to it. I mean, the more I do it, the more I kind of can figure out what's gonna, because now anytime I submit like the last 2 or 3 designs that I submitted, I looked up. I'm looking up every single keyword to see if it's trademarked and everything. So, and they haven't bounced back yet. So I think I'm getting better at it, but it's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah. That is fascinating. I mean, I think like that's also a very foreboding sign of our future, because I think the automated business model that they're using is kind of like, that's going to happen everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that's the downside of automation, is you have the Siri effect, where you're like, hey, what's quantum physics? And it's like, what do you want for bottom visits? You're like, no, I said quantum physics, and it's like that back and forth, I think is only inevitably going to kind of continue.
Yeah.
Cool. That's a pretty understandable challenge, and I'm probably going to pick your brain for the wealth of knowledge you're getting for KDP.
Yeah.
Before I get into this, and maybe actually from that, I'm almost thinking it might be better to kind of reach out to them and say, hey, are there restrictions that aren't listed on your template for 8.5 by 11, books? Yeah.
The other thing, and my books, I mean, every single book has a full bleed on the cover, but in order to make it easier, most of these activity books have no bleed, because that's the biggest problem. Once you start dealing with bleed, everything gets, I've watched a few videos that Holly put out when she's publishing stuff, and she just goes off about how everything, because they don't understand. Like, there's certain things you intend to be a certain way, and they're saying, oh no, that's not supposed to do that. No, that's the way I want it to go. So yeah, it's anyway, but so yeah.
It's also tough with that, because I'm imagining that probably isn't automated. And so the caches.
There is somebody that's going through and reviewing that stuff. There are people that do that. So,
and this is an issue at most printers where, it's why it's good to build relationships with printers. Like, in my experience as like an art director too, you want a good production guy who knows you.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, when you're working with a large printer, depending on the production guy who's reviewing it, like just like what Scott was describing will happen, where they're like, well, we don't do that. And you're like, but yeah, I mean, I get that your protocols say you can't do that, but you can, like, And so there's some guys who are like letter of the law and just like really risk averse. And then some guys who are just like, oh yeah, that's fine. And when you find a good one, like build a relationship with that person, because that's your go-to.
I don't know how well you can build a relationship with Amazon.
With Amazon, with print on demand, you're just going to get what you get. I mean, that's the trade-off of print on demand, But yeah, it's tough because I'm imagining they're employing a lot of people, and the problem and beauty of people is that there's diversity in thought and the call. So that's probably why, like, it's like, oh yeah, we can do that font, and then others are like, we can't, because there's probably some protocol that's handcuffing some. And
I wonder, I might, but because there's another thing on there like that. Because by default, it doesn't have a look inside feature. And I want to have that feature. I want it to show some of the inside of the book, because a lot of people, what they're doing, a lot of these marketers, they just go in and it's what they call no content publishing or low content publishing, where they'll do like a sketchbook or a line notebook and just put a cover on it and some template that they got from, I don't know, stole from Google or there's these template websites. So they're not, but I want people to look at it and say, oh, this isn't like everything else with a different cover on it. This is original content inside.
And I'm imagining that increases sales, because when I'm about to buy a book, I usually on Amazon, I do that all the time.
I do too, but the one thing I found out is that feature is not available on mobile, and 80% of people shop on mobile. But I still want to do it because, I would imagine at some point that would be something that they would make available on mobile, because I want to see that too. I'm not going to buy something sight unseen. So, but for that, you actually have to, you have to email them. And because I find I've been watching tons of videos on this, and most people don't bother to do that, so you just email them and say, I want to increase my look inside by 10% or whatever. So I would imagine, because I don't think I can go and automatically like edit the books that have already been published on there. But I would like all the type to be the same size. So I may email them and say, can I upload a new cover? I don't see what happens. So
I like it. What's okay? So I guess do you want? I'll jump in on challenges, and that'll tie in a little bit. Although it's not an art-related challenge, it's kind of interesting because it's a big company that I kind of gave grief over something and wound up working out my way a little bit. So first I'll just say my biggest challenge is like I literally got home at like 8:20 and then I worked on Saturday. And we're just slammed like at my job. And it's part of being an art director or a leader or manager anywhere, is that at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. So if you're kind of a crappy leader, then you'll just put that on your staff and see really quick burnout. But I think if you're a responsible leader, you're going to be in the trenches with the troops, with a team the size of mine, So even though it's a loss, it's like for anybody on salary, like the more hours you work, the more money you're losing.
Sort of.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying in the short term, because I would say long term, that kind of thing is the type of thing that keeps your job secure and also gains you potential raises and things like that. But basically, like, it's my opinion, if I'm going to ask my team to do something, I need to be willing to do it too. And so we've been having to do a lot of overtime, and so I've been doing a lot of overtime. And that just starts to wear on you after like a bit, you know. My weekend felt extra short, and it cut into my creative time and my family time, and so that's a big challenge. You know, so that's the main one, is just tons of overtime. Like, but it's a good problem to have. Like, I like the position I have, and that's part of it.
Yeah. And your team will be significantly more productive if they don't resent you.
Yeah.
Later
100%.
on. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So the other thing that's kind of like been a real challenge is just like we're cleaning our garage, and my wife, this is our first house, and so we literally hadn't really touched the garage since we moved here, and so that's been quite a challenge. And building shelves and stuff for the garage. And I ordered these shelving units, like, because I want those industrial shelving units, you know, from Walmart. And this is where it'll tie into what Scott's kind of was talking about, with like big corporations. And we ordered one shelving unit, and it came perfectly in time. And then we ordered another, and the delivery date was pushed by a week. So, and this is through Walmart, right? So I contacted their sales reps and just was like, hey, the delivery's pushed by a week. We need to get compensated for that because you didn't hit your delivery date, right? And initially they were like, well, we'll give you like 10% off, which was cool. So I'm like, sweet, 10% off. But then I look at like my bill, and I realized that they reduced the rate based on a different bill. And so it didn't really end up being 10% off. So I sent a complaint again, and I was like, this is kind of obnoxious. We're just trying to order a shelf, you know? And I'm like, look, like, I get where you guys are coming from. You're busy because at the time it was right after Christmas, you know? But I'm like, so, you know, I'm not sure what we can do to rectify this, but can we rectify it? And I kind of go up a couple people, go to like their management. And keep in mind, this whole thing began automated, right? But then like this weird thing happens where when it ships, we're billed $0 and we got a complete shelving unit. So they compensated us for the lateness by sending us the whole shelving unit for free.
That's pretty rad.
So I will say, and I've had this happen. This happened years ago with Apple, long ago. They sent me kind of a dud of a computer, and it just never functioned quite the way a new Apple should function. And I dealt with Apple Care and stuff and kind of escalated up, but was very polite. Like, that's catch. You want to be really friendly with the people you're dealing with, but firm. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah.
And Apple sent me a completely new computer after my Apple Care had expired for free. This is years ago. So like one thing I will say is like with automated systems and customer service, when you need to get things done, it can sometimes be really advantageous to be patient and just see it through and talk to bosses. And sometimes it can save you a lot of money. So, yeah. Anyhow, but that was a big hassle as well.
I like hearing those stories. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and I think that kind of ability, it's weird. Like even if you're a freelancer or and you haven't worked in-house, or if you're aspiring and starting out and you haven't worked freelance, learning how to negotiate and deal with customer service departments of big corporations is a skill that will follow you for the rest of your life, and benefit you, you know, in the workplace and outside of it too. So anyhow,
awesome.
Totally rambling, but it was a challenge, but it ended up being kind of cool. All right. This has been long. Let's get into goals.
Okay. For me, we've been on Scott this whole time. Sorry.
I was working away.
I think that's great because Scott honestly is selling this whole thing with his image. Look at this magnificent man in
There
the
we
center.
Jan is saying there's Amazon-like sites here in Asia, and they clearly have no one policy or bots regarding fakes and copies, so it's really hard to find the actual real thing.
Yeah.
And then when you do, it seems super expensive.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, and Jan, how's it going, dude? We love your channel. It's nice to see you, man.
Yeah, Jan and Abe's with us as well.
I love it. Hey,
so, yeah. What are we doing? Plans? Yeah. So plans for me, get the audio of this thing done. I still have that other animation with the motorcycles playing chicken that I'm going to be doing, and then I would like to spend some time. I've been trying to bust out a bunch of like little. I would consider it like sprinting to like kind of build up my speed. And so I've been like doing some sprints in animation for the last few weeks, and I feel like I've been able to get one or more done a week from like start to finish. So I'm going to start like writing and brainstorming this week on like another short, and I'll kind of see where that goes. So
that's exciting, dude.
Yeah. So we'll see. Well, hopefully it'll have a better script than the last one that I wrote, which was really preachy and weird. So yeah, those are my plans. So how about you, Scott?
My plans are just to continue kind of doing what I'm doing, keep upload. I mean, the thing is, I've got so many designs that I already have that I sold before, and like just right now as I'm doing stuff on Redbubble, it takes so long just to do just to format all these different designs for all these different products. So I'm just getting started, but I've got tons of other designs, and then I've been just going crazy coming up with ideas, and I've got so many different ideas for new things as well. So, I mean, I've just got a laundry list of stuff I can do. So I'm hoping all this stuff will pay off. It's kind of in the beginning now where it's just like, but I kind of learned this from like the Comic Maker Toolkit, which took a long time to build, so it's just a long time putting in all the time, but it ended up being successful. So I'm hoping this stuff will be the same, and, because I've still got bundle deals and stuff running on the toolkit. So it's been doing pretty good. So if I can do that in other areas.
Where could I get a copy of this toolkit?
The best place to get it is probably the best way to support me when you get it is to get it from my website at circworks.com. No, that isn't totally free. The toolkit's not, but the starter kit is. But if you want the starter kit, start with the starter kit. That is free. You can get that from my website too.
Yeah, and it's like a like one of the things I love when going to Costco, even though I usually hate Costco in general, is you get those free samples, and that's the free sample. But the cool thing about this, unlike a lot of the Costco samples, is it is so good that when you get that free sample, you're probably going to want it. And
you get to keep it. It's not like like food where you eat it and it's gone. These free samples, you can keep using it.
So cool. So yeah, that's rad. So that's your plan then? That's
the plan, and hopefully, I mean, I've got to get going on some freelance. I'm still waiting to hear, and some of the stuff I've already been paid for. So that's not in a position I like to be in, where people pay me and haven't given me the stuff to do yet, because it's you're
on retainer, and the longer it goes, the more money means less.
So I'll have to put a bug in my client's ear and see if he can tell me what he wants me to do. So, but so hopefully I'll get that, and I can start making some headway on that, so I don't get too far behind on that stuff too. But other than that, I've just got to kind of keep on my videos, because I'm trying to stay ahead. Videos and then this stuff, and really that's kind of all I'm concentrating on. So I just want to build this other stuff. So yeah,
that is a very ambitious video schedule.
Well, some of it's already done, so as long as I can keep on top of it, I just don't want to fall behind. So.
Yeah, but like for anybody not following, which I doubt, because I think most people who follow me are following you. But if you guys haven't checked out these comic videos, like you should go to Scott's channel and check them out. They're really rad. Making Comics 101, and they're just really excellently edited, very thorough, and like they're just coming out frequently. So there's a whole ton of content to catch up on. Like I myself have to catch up on them, but they're all really excellent and really thorough and really good. Cool. So my goal is to get I'd like to get to like a halfway point of inking this this page right here, and then I mean that's basically it. I mean in reality, I'd like to say I could finish the whole thing, but I'm guessing tomorrow might be another 8 o'clock at home kind of day. And so just that, and retain my sanity and continue working out to kind of add stress, which I think is really important. And then, I mean, other than that, I would like to do my band practice, which I usually do on Tuesdays, and get prepped for some stuff on that end. But the main thing is just to try to be diligent and show up. And to me, I feel like that's one of the biggest challenges of like that. We had like Mike Emirates on Artcasters like last week, and I feel like it was a good conversation, but it was kind of regarding challenges. And I think one of the benefits of a good art challenge or like developing habits as an artist is the idea of just kind of showing up and being professional, because things get done when you show up. And so that to me is going to be my biggest challenge, is like just fighting that fight for those 30 minutes or hour to like sit down and kind of get stuff done. Yeah. Cool. So should we get into the topic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do for a topic today?
So Scott had an idea. Do you wanna kind of kick it off, Scott?
Yeah. Hold on one second. Let me save this thing here. All right.
And then, because this will be for a podcast too, you want to say the topic is.
This is official topic. Well, okay. I didn't know I was allowed to do this because I'm just like the guest guy.
I don't know,
Not
man.
really.
At this point, I think you're kind of official.
Corey, tell me what you do so I know.
I just say today's topic is, and then you need to pause just for a second and then just state the topic. And then, so here's a little insider baseball for everybody watching. The reason we do that is because then after the fact, we can come in and cut that and then add the podcast intro at the beginning. And so that we don't have to do any fancy editing. But visually so your word, Scott, today's topic is those won't be there, but after is will be there. Okay. But you're just finishing that sentence. But visually, so that we don't have to like figure out where we are, since we're 43 minutes into this already, I'm going to play the intro again just to give us like a visual cue.
So I go in right after you do the intro.
Yeah.
Today's topic is the value of art from the perspective of non-artists. And the reason why I picked this topic is because right now I've been just doing a lot of research. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build up some passive income streams using my artwork on more or less Amazon through Amazon merch, or merch by Amazon, which is sort of their, t-shirts, and I think they've got pop sockets now, but it's pretty limited to t-shirts and hoodies and things like that. And I'm sure it will grow, even though it seems very saturated already. And also through Amazon KDP, which is the Kindle publishing platform. Anyway, so yeah, I'm looking at ways to get my artwork out there. And in my research, I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I'm kind of surprised that Well, I know that there's artists in that space, but most of the people that I'm seeing doing the YouTube videos are more on the marketing side of it. And almost every single one I watch, they say, you know, I'm not a designer, you know. It kind of starts with that. And to me, it seems a little odd. I mean, more power to anyone you know, who can, you know, earn a living doing whatever they want, you know. But, you know, it's like, I mean, I run and I jog and I do that stuff, but I'm not a fitness person. So I would never like try to go into being, you know, like a personal trainer. But it's just, and that's kind of what brought me to this topic, is because it's basically what a lot of these marketers are doing, or they recommend you do this good like Fiverr, or, you know, outsource, you know, to, you know, some countries where the, you know, cost of living is real low. And that could be a little different than just Fiverr. Well, a lot of that stuff's on Fiverr too, but judging from my experience and knowing how many clients I've had come to me because they went to Fiverr and them showing me what they got for what little money they spent, which is probably more than they should, probably better than what they should have got, because $5 is nothing really. And if you are in a country, this is just my thing, but if you are in a country where the cost of living is lower, and you can live for a week on $5, just think what you could do with, you know, quite a bit more than $5, because that's what your artwork is worth. If you're, you know, I mean, you could be like, you know, rolling in money, you know. But anyway, so that's kind of a little tangent. But anyway, so but you know, a lot of their advice is, you know, go to Fiverr, and I've seen the work. They don't show you a lot of what they're putting out there, because the other thing about that space is that people are constantly just ripping off people's ideas. And anytime you watch a video where they basically, this is how it works. They go, okay, go and see what's popular, and they always say, don't take their ideas, but see if you can improve on it. And usually they're not really improving on it, because they're, like you said, they're just not investing in that. And the game is to throw as much garbage at the wall and see if it sticks. And
Yeah,
kind of like when you're you know, doing like a spamming email. I mean, most people, it goes to filters and all that, but there's that small percentage that you get a little bite. So it's kind of that mentality. And to me, I want to go into it thinking that, okay, if these guys put up 100, just throw 100 designs out there in the ether and hope something sticks. I mean, 100 garbage designs. What if I just did 10? Can I have the same results with 10 awesome designs? So I don't know. We'll kind of have to figure, because there's not. I mean, I'll have to figure this stuff out, because there's not a lot of other artists that I can find that are doing this, that are talking about it anyway. I know there's some good stuff out there.
yeah,
Just it's this whole mentality about the you know, they just don't value the art. And really, the art, if you're selling a t-shirt, I mean, I understand a lot of it has to do with SEO, and that's why I think hopefully it's a lot easier for an artist, myself, to learn how to do the SEO and the marketing than it is for a SEO marketing person to learn how to do art. So hopefully that kind of gives us the upper hand. And I would love to see more artists moving into this space, because there's just so much bad stuff out there. We need to put more good stuff in the world. And somebody made this analogy in one of the shows that I'm watching, a YouTube channel. They said that, like, say like Redbubble is like Target, and then they said Amazon is like Walmart. And to me, I heard that and I'm like, I think you're being too hard on Walmart, because the thing is, when you go into a store, Walmart, Target, or whatever, you look at the products on there, those products aren't designed by people on Fiverr. All right. They're designed by people that are paid a decent amount of money by advertising agencies that make a ton of money, because there's value in that, you know. Whereas look on Amazon and it's like a swap meet. It's not like Walmart. Walmart is definitely a step up from what you're seeing, just all the garbage stuff that you're seeing on Amazon. So I'd love for more great art to be on there. I'd love for people to see that what I think, if you just hire somebody, pay them a decent amount of money to do something good and put out like half as many good designs as just the garbage designs, I think the cream will rise to the top. I don't know how much of it has to do with how well you tag your stuff. Like, I think if you could do both, which is hopefully what I'm trying to learn how to do. But yeah, it's frustrating to me because I'm trying to learn this stuff. I'm trying to learn the SEO and all this stuff and the marketing.
Yeah.
But it's really hard for me to listen to this when they're giving advice like this and they just place no value on what is essentially the product itself. When you're selling a t-shirt, the product is the artwork. And if it's crappy artwork, it's a crappy product. And it's like there's no value on it. So I know that was kind of went on for a while, but that's the topic.
And what you're dealing with, real quick, Josh, is what you're dealing with is people who know the cost of everything and the value of nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I just wanted to kind of interject that. So
no, I adore it. So I think like one of the things that people. So I worked in t-shirts for a long time, and when I tell people that, they'll think of like mall t-shirt shops and like the lowest form of, graphic design, where it's like, you're maybe using your own vinyl plotter or something, and like, oh, it's mom's birthday. Let's like print, a t-shirt design on there.
Let's grab some clip art and
exactly
do an iron on.
But the kind of t-shirt design I was doing ended up like really soaring in popularity, and I'm not saying that to brag. The reason they did well was that there was strong concepts, unique concepts that got ripped off later on. And then they looked good. Like you'd look good as a human being wearing that shirt. And so the art in itself on the shirt helped sell the product. So there's different avenues, right? Like there's, a very small market for somebody who's going to wear a World's Best Grandpa t-shirt, right? But if it's...
From what I understand.
What's up?
It's a pretty big market from what I understand. That's a lot of the stuff that people are putting out there.
But what I'm saying is like the market, aesthetics matter. Like in the sense of like if you go into a store and you have a crappy looking World's Best Grandpa t-shirt, right? And then you have one where it's hand lettered by Jessica Hish, you know, what's going to be shocking and what tends to happen is the Jessica Hish thing sells better. People can't even explain why they'd go for it. It just looks better because it's custom, because it's following aesthetic laws. It's following visual science that helps push the product. Now, does that mean that that's always the case? Not at all. To non-visual people, they don't even realize that graphic design affects their decision making.
Yeah.
But it does. It affects every product they buy. And you can see this just by walking. Like walk through a major city and look how many people are wearing crappy, ugly t-shirts with like terrible type slapped on them. Surprisingly, like people are actually pickier with their clothes than I think people who are kind of doing that hustle like to admit.
I have a theory on that. And my theory is whether you're consciously or subconsciously doing this, when you do things that affect the way that you look,
yes.
You get a haircut, you choose a t-shirt for the day, you wear a tie or don't wear a tie, you shower or don't shower. In essence, what you are doing is you are making a series of choices of how you would like to be perceived by those that you interact with that day.
Yeah.
And it's a huge deal, and most people realize it. That's why most people, will not go to work without like brushing their teeth and putting on deodorant, and those are a different sense, but they also will, make sure that their clothes look somewhat presentable. And then in addition to that, like what you broadcast with what you wear is very valuable as well, because you're tribing up, you're going to signal to your tribe, I like this show. I am against this thing. I feel this way about this. The irony of this is that every generation has kind of like a dress code for the rebellion, whether it's goth or metal or punk or whatever. It initially starts as a counterculture rebellion and then gets codified as like, if you would like to be perceived as not mainstream, then here is the uniform that you wear, which is the beginning of the end of that aesthetic. Every time. Right. And so, and so it's interesting to think that we are hyper aware, at least on a subconscious level, which I guess is contradictory, of the visuals that we use to self-identify. Like we are broadcasting our identity to the world based on what we choose to wear, based on where we choose to go, what we choose to do with our time, what we say out loud in public to other people. Like these are all choices that are branding. And I don't like using that term because it's been kind of sullied and it feels weird, but like design principles, the principles of aesthetics are they're not based on like, a bunch of people got together and decided, I like it when complementary colors are used.
Yeah.
Like they're actually based on the study of perception. And so like
Gestalt.
we don't necessarily need to get into like Gestalt theory or anything like this, but like there were a bunch of German psychologists that studied human perception and came up with a series of rules based on the way that our eyes behave and the perception of those electrical impulses to our brain. And every design principle has its roots in that. And so when we say that like kerning and leading and tracking help legibility, that's because it's very solidly based in science. And so like you take somebody like Scott, or you take somebody like, an opportunist, who's out there and I'm just going to put out hundreds of designs a day. I don't care. Right. There is going to be, even to the untrained eye, there is going to be a perceptible difference. And the reason is that being able to understand and create things with design principles in mind will signal to your basic brain that this is a good product because it's using the things that your brain uses to perceive the world in a good way.
So this is kind of getting to kind of the crux of why I was talking about that. Some of that is the marketplace. Like one thing to kind of realize is like to be a short order cook, like a line cook at a fast food joint has a different value and a different result and a different training level than like being a short order cook at like a mom and pop that's going to do breakfast, is going to do lunch, a whole variety of food that's not like on a limited menu and uses actual meat instead of like, pink slime or whatever. And each tier that you go with a restaurant, you're going to get different results. And you get different results in the sense of health. You get different results in the sense of like cost for item. But there is a place for like fast food, in food.
I'll add to this analogy that there's also a different expectation in your audience.
Exactly. And
so if you pay $1.50 for a burger and it's like dry, it tastes like a hockey puck, you're going to be like, yeah, that's kind of what I expected. But if you pay $10 for a burger the expectations are significantly different. So the skills
Agreed.
that are required are significantly different.
Yeah, like if it, just imagine if you were to go to like one of those black tie restaurants where it's like the menu's chosen for you and there's a red carpet when you're walking in, and you go in and it's like a Big Mac. Your review of that is going to be a lot different than if you spend like $5 for a Big Mac or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm getting at is like, it's tough. Like what you're talking about, Scott, is really difficult in the marketplace of something like Amazon, where it's a saturation issue. It's very akin to like trying to open a gourmet restaurant in a city that is dominated with fast food. And you're trying to be like, look, this is healthier. It's better for you. It'll taste good, right? But there's all these different fast food joints like saying, hey, we're cheaper, right? And so this is like the kind of fine balance and fine line we have to kind of dance as artists. And I think the only way around it is for artists themselves to start advocating and communicating more, and also start competing in that marketplace. So I think, Scott, what you're talking about is great, because in the marketplace of visual, I firmly believe that 9 times out of 10, strong visuals win. Like, and I've seen it in my own, career, even in my current day job, like where I work as an art director. If what I visually brought to the table didn't increase sales, I would be gone. But what's weird is this weird conundrum where, yes, there's an element of like fast, quick, hit deadlines, all of that. And that's in any art, even the more fast foody, the more gourmet of art is still kind of deadline driven and speed oriented. And they always want it fast, good, and cheap, right? Scott and I have talked about that, but there's that beautiful diagram of like fast, good, and cheap. You can pick two. But what I'm getting at is like, when people invest in quality, they get profit. It's a weird thing. So it depends on your business model, right? Do you want to be, and this to me is like how I deal with it with clients and stuff. And Scott, I want to hear you chime in on this as well. But it's like, to me, when I was doing t-shirt design as my main income, I wasn't trying for the hustle of the mall shop, because the hustle of the mall shop you can't compete with. That's more about speed and technology, and that'll be automated eventually. And Corey and I have talked about it, about that ad nauseum. But like that kind of job, like if you're, the guy just kind of replicating what's been done and what's trendy, and you're doing it quick and cheap and using whatever ideas are out there, and there's no style to it or substance, that's very easy to automate. So at some point you're going to, if malls are even around, right? Because malls are disappearing really quickly due to Amazon. But, if that kind of thing's around, eventually it's just going to be a machine where you just kind of say, I want it to say this, and in a crappy font, it just prints it for you. I mean, that already exists to an extent.
Or even even in a not crappy font. I mean, Adobe and others, we're struggling with this right now, where, in class, I'm teaching people to be visual communicators and teaching graphic design and illustration and all these things. And some of the students are like, here's this program where I can choose like one of these 12 templates and it looks really good. And I'm like, yes, that is true. And that will be helpful for the, the hot dog vendor that doesn't have enough money to like hire somebody to do that type of thing. But when that guy's business really starts taking off and he wants to build a franchise out of it, that template, those 12 templates are also available to everyone else on the planet, and so customized quality design is is significantly more difficult, more expensive, and more important and more effective because of its uniqueness than something that's like readily available. So I mean, I'll tell you right now, like if you don't want to learn design, that's fine. Go use Spark, go use Canva, go use all that stuff, and your stuff will look okay. It will look like everyone else who chooses one of those 12 to 24 templates, but it'll look fine, right? But if you want something unique, and the value of unique is super important because our current system is based on scarcity, right? And so think about how scarce your design is if it looks like nothing else out there. It looks good, it's designed well, but you can tell that's a Joshua Kimball original, that's a Scott Circland original, versus, oh yeah, that kind of looks like those black t-shirts that have Helvetica on them, and then they have like words on them. So,
yeah, and here's the thing, like even the black t-shirts that use Helvetica, right, originated somewhere, and the place they originated with made a crap load more money than the people who were imitating. Yeah. And this is something that's really important, like highlighting graphic design, the importance of graphic design. One of the t-shirt artists that kind of was among like my peers when I was in the game, transferred from t-shirt design to doing political campaigns. And so, you know, one of the campaigns that really benefited from solid graphic design was Barack Obama when he was running. And it literally revolutionized social media. It revolutionized how people campaign and how they design their campaigning. And that was all done by a t-shirt artist. Now, a mall t-shirt artist, you're not going to see a real tick in the campaign because everybody's got the same campaign poster. They're all pulling from the same template. And so, like what I guess I'm getting at is like 9 times out of 10 concept trumps talent, and 9 times out of 10 individual trumps templates. And it's just a matter of like really looking at the data. So like Scott, what you're talking about, I have hope. I can't, there's another angle to it. Maybe we can get into like the kind of devil's advocate thing, you know, as we go on with this topic. But I feel like you kind of have to retain hope and see light in situations. With graphic design, there's always naysayers who are like, design is over. You know, the machines have taken it. And that goes back centuries. I mean, it's you know, when
there's movable type now, it's all over.
Yeah, I mean, like there was this big thing between Schongauer and Albrecht Dürer, where Schongauer was using lithograph, which was a new technology, right? And Albrecht Dürer was using woodcuts. And they had this big competitive thing because they were both phenomenal illustrators, and were making most of their money doing book illustration, right? But it's like, so Schongauer and Albrecht Dürer are like doing this big face-off, and at the end of the day, Albrecht Dürer won using woodcut because his illustrations were better, right? So it didn't matter the technology; like he made better illustrations, better quality work, and he did it using woodcut, which actually showed up Schongauer, right? This repeats over and over again, like early 90s, late 80s, the computer just destroyed a lot of graphic designers' livelihood, right? But it was only about a year or two until the whole culture was like, yeah, I'm kind of sick of gradients. You know, like I kind of like, that's a cool shiny effect, but how do we get that like thing that like Milton Glaser was doing in the 70s, and then the education of like graphic design came back in? You know what I mean? The education of what those guys, a lot of who were put out of work, were doing with paste up came back, and just transition from like physical to digital. So like to me, I really strongly believe that if you're a designer or an illustrator out there, you can eke out a living doing the same old crap, maybe hiring people on Fiverr, using stock art and cutting every corner in the world. But you can actually make a real mark and make a much larger income by contributing something new, individual, and created by you as an individual, following graphic design principles, and the pay difference is massive. And so to me, it's like there's a part of me that dislikes Fiverr. There's also a part of me that feels like, I don't know, if you're a graphic designer and you want to go on Fiverr and that's how you want to make your living, good luck to you, dude. Go for it. Because when I get quoted those rates, I send people to Fiverr. I'm like, you go to Fiverr, get a copywritten design, get stuff that's probably clip art that was free that they're reselling for $5. But if you want quality, like, this is what it costs, And in a weird way, it's like, I feel like our job as illustrators and graphic designers is to be really clear whether we're a fast food restaurant, whether we're a gourmet restaurant. Because people are willing to pay for gourmet food,
if they understand that it's gourmet.
Yeah, but if they're coming for gourmet and they want it at fast food prices, what's going to happen at a gourmet restaurant? If you want a plumber, like a really solid plumber, I'm talking like quality plumber, at the cost of your buddy down the street who kind of toys around with plumbing, what's that plumber going to say to you when you're like, yeah, well, I could get this for like $10 an hour? Like, how does the plumber respond? They're going to respond with like, well, good luck with the $10 an hour guy. Call me when your pipes get backed up.
Yeah.
When the stuff falls apart. That's the thing, is like, we're contractors, and contractors for decades have had trouble competing with contractors who do shoddy work for cheap, with outsourced labor. All of the stuff we're dealing with is business stuff. And I think it's really important to kind of create a map of the risk that you mitigate, right, by hiring somebody who's good. And similarly, like, you can buy a cheap t-shirt, and the design's cheap, and the graphic design on it looks terrible, but it says something that reflects your personality, and you'll look terrible in it. But people might be like, that's a funny t-shirt. Or you could wear a funny t-shirt that makes you look good, right? Because it's well designed and well executed. And I'm totally rambling, but my point is, if the case were that the crappy t-shirt sold better, then every time I was at a concert venue, the thing that was on discount that's terribly designed would be the thing selling out for bands, right? But what's weird is, what you'll notice sells well for bands are things with like a really strong concept or really great artwork.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Josh. Imagine if you had a table at a concert venue and you had a number of designs on the table.
Yeah.
However, the best designs were under the table and people couldn't see those designs. Right. That's kind of
exactly.
That sometimes that's the case, because some of the that's why I want to learn the SEO and the marketing angle of it, because, like I said, it's easier for me to learn that than and because I already have the artistic skills. 100%. It's going to be harder for a marketer to compete and learn how to, or part with enough money and take that risk, because it is a lot of risk, especially if you're throwing up hundreds of designs. If you're paying, it makes me cringe. But even sometimes they brag. Some people brag and said, I'm paying a designer $50 or $15 a design, and I'm like, oh. So, but anyway, so part of it is getting it visible. If you've got the best designs in the world and they aren't showing up, then that's a problem. So
yeah, and that's where it becomes a challenge. And this is I think a problem with any type of art whether it be design, illustration, animation, or whatever, like, unfortunately, being the best isn't good enough. You also have to know how to get your stuff out there. So there are a lot of people that sit and work on their craft, but never figure out how to like network appropriately, never figure out how to pitch themselves, never figure out, how to play the SEO game. And I wish this weren't the case, because all of that stuff isn't fun, but that is how the world is. And so your analogy, Scott, of like the good stuff being under the table, like the consumers are going to buy a good idea. And I believe that they will buy the best designed version of that idea out there, but only if they see it. Yeah. And so, if there's a bunch of garbage and the good design, doesn't come up, they'll buy the best in the garbage pile. But the good design has to get out there. It's super frustrating. But I mean, it's no longer, it's a volume game for a lot of the guys that you're talking about, Scott, that are doing these videos and stuff. They're playing a volume game, you know?
Scatter shot.
Right. It's a shotgun approach of just like, just aim in that general direction and hope I hit one of the birds, versus, somebody who is skilled or whatever, but still you've both got to be in the duck pond, you've both got to be in there or there's no opportunity for you. And so the challenge does become like, okay, let's figure this out. I do believe that if you are able to figure out, all right, here's how to get the stuff out there so that the algorithm sees it and whatever, and you're in the same pool of products as the stuff that's being designed by Fiverr designers, then it's no longer a garbage pile, and your stuff will get out there. But that's the real challenge, is that, and it's like if somebody comes to me, and I learned this from Chris Doe, and I love it. I've used it several times in the last year, and it's great. Is he says, don't chase clients. If somebody comes to you and says, like, hey, I'd like you to work for me, or I'd like to hire you to do something, don't immediately start like begging and negotiating or whatever. He says, make sure that they understand that you charge more than a lot of people do. And so like I have said, hey, listen, I'm not the cheapest guy in town. I can tell you who they are if you'd like to. If you want to risk it, you can go with some students or whomever. But when you hire me, just so you know, I only take work on that I want to take on. And I only take stuff on that I'm going to do really well at. And so you're going to get a really good design or illustration or animation, but you're also going to pay more. And if at that point in time, they're like, then it's like, you know what? I don't want that job, because it's going to be way more work for way less money. And so it seems counterintuitive to be turning work away like that, but it's it has really helped, in being able to, I don't have to convince people of that because they sift themselves. But the ones that are like, oh no, I understand. Like, I get it. That's why I'm calling you. It's like, oh, good. We can talk. Like we can get going on this. And I don't know, man, on Amazon, it is, it's a Wild West. And, and I'm super curious to see how this works out, because you literally could, take the whole thing by storm. And just because, right now the situation without good designers is that, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Exactly.
And so in the land of no design, like a halfway okay Fiverr designer is going to do well. And then, oh, there's a new guy in town, and we've got a new contender, and Scott shows up. That could be a huge game changer, or it could be that it's a market that is so bogged down with garbage that it just chokes out anything good.
Like tying back to the fast food analogy, like it's like, are you walking into the city that's like super economically challenged and dominated by 50 billion fast food restaurants, and you're trying to open a gourmet restaurant? Like it could be that, or it could be a scenario where, you know, people are used to McDonald's and you're opening an In-N-Out across the street, and it's like the you know, inevitably you're going to start getting customers because what you make is better. And I'm just tying that into just
let's say that
not overrated.
200 McDonald's in a town, you know, and one smash burger shows up and they start charging $8 for their burgers, and McDonald's is still charging $3. Not everybody is going to go to smash burger, but those that are willing to pay more for better quality will, and you'll stay busy.
Okay, and another thing I'd also say, because like I've caught myself getting in this too, where I'm like, art has value, and I think art does have value, intrinsic value. Like I think like the comic I'm making is better than a lot of comics that make a lot of money. Not all comics that make a lot of money, but there's a lot of comics out there that are going to sell better than this thing, no matter what way I release it.
Yeah.
Maybe the thing it's selling better than is just a property people already feel attached to. We've already talked about that kind of thing ad nauseum, right? So like obviously, like I'm a fan of doing good art, regardless. But I do think a trap a lot of us fall into is forgetting what we do, because like on a professional level, what we make is a product. Now, on a personal level and as an artist, we might believe that it's more than a product, and I would agree with that. We could go down that road and talk about it, but there is a facet of what we do that is making a product that's in a system of commerce, right, that has customers. And one thing I find people forgetting often with artists is that like you're a customer, and for things that aren't like art based, you care about the bottom line. You want the best product for the cheapest, and you want it quickest.
That's like, the thing. I don't think a lot of it just seems in watching some of these marketers.
Yeah,
I don't think they care about the customer at all. I think it's all about money. Everything's just about the money. And you know, and if I put something out there, I want to know that the person on the receiving end is getting a good product.
Which is great, because that'll give you a sales advantage. Like that's what I'm getting at. Is like when it comes down to it, like there's two different kinds of sales. There's like the cheap car dealer who's like, you're never going to beat this price. It's the best price in town, and they're selling lemons, but the prices are so low, they've lost their mind, and they run like these terrible ads, right? And then you have car dealers that are just like, yeah, those are cheaper, but our car, if you buy it, is going to last. It's going to be good quality. You're going to be able to get parts replaced for cheaper. Like you're going to get better service from our dealership, right? You know what I mean? Like there's different kinds of car dealers. And what I'm getting at is like in the marketplace, I'm fascinated to see how it goes, because I think Scott, I think you've touched on an area that's devoid of good quality. And so to me, I think if there's a way to kind of bypass the algorithm, if what Corey was mentioning as a possibility isn't the case, where it could literally be like trying to do good design on what was that terrible Cafe Press, right? Yeah. Like right after Cafe Press was already saturated. It's like, good luck with that, because the market's so like, it's so much data. It's like releasing a movie on a week where there's 5 billion movies. You know, so like even if it's a great movie, how are you going to get it to people? That's the challenge.
And I'm not just going into Amazon. I mean, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. Amazon is one thing, but even a lot of the marketers, because they've already flooded Amazon, and it's so easy for people to go in and copy and all that stuff. Now they're trying to move into Redbubble. Now Redbubble is a platform for artists. So when you look at Redbubble, if you go to their site, you're going to see some nice designs. But if you start doing some keyword searches, you're going to find some crappy stuff, because those people are starting to infiltrate.
Yeah, and the same thing happened with Threadless.
but they're saying they're not doing as well because the market on Redbubble is looking for quality artwork.
Yeah,
so,
the expectations of the customers are significantly different.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think is interesting is you've got to find the right customers. If I have good designs just sitting in my basement and I never show them to anybody, or I walk them around my neighborhood and only the 20 people that drive on my street every day see it. Yeah. That's a different story. I also think there's an interesting challenge in today's world where some people either intentionally or unintentionally choose bad design to rebel against what they think is, like something that they don't want to be. I'm trying to choose my words carefully because I don't want to insult anybody, but like, you talked about Obama's campaign.
Yeah.
Other politicians have done the opposite of that and intentionally used poor design as a statement. And so it's kind of an interesting thing because it is a message, it is an audience, it is a product, it is a design.
Yeah.
It's all of that in conjunction with, the right time, right place and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a challenge, marketing is a challenge. I don't exactly know where I'm going there, but there are people that have done really interesting things with bad design because of what that says.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think what I was getting at as a gist is not to like, I think it is sad. There's I guess what I'm getting at is like, it can be frustrating that people don't value art, but then I realize like I don't value construction as much as I should. Like when it comes to my own house, right? Like if like I want to see if I can do it myself first, right? I want to see if I can get cheap labor to do it. Cost is very much a factor. I do care about quality at the end, but cost often overrides quality because of just my financial situation.
Right.
Most Americans, most people are in that situation and are viewing art like specifically as a commerce situation. So this is the hard part, is like, how do we educate people to kind of, to just like the contractor who like is trying to get somebody to not pay for like cheap concrete to be poured badly by somebody who's not going to level it properly and stuff like that. How do we kind of step up and be that voice? And I think part of it is doing exactly what you're doing, Scott, which is infiltrate. That's number one. Like, let's infiltrate these crappy design places with good design.
Yeah.
Because when people see good, 9 times out of 10, they're going to pick good. There's that 1 out of 10 who has no taste whatsoever. And that's the person who's going to buy, like they're going to wear purple and brown and shades that completely clash with each other. Speaking of like the, fashion representing who somebody is, there are some of those people who are never going to match their clothes. Right.
Which is also okay because if there were one answer to a visual problem, then there would be no jobs, but the fact of the matter is that there are as many answers to a visual problem as there are people out there.
So that's what I'm kind of getting at, is like, I think the way we fight it is by creating good work and also by charging standard fair rates for our labor, because I think otherwise, we're in a scenario where we're even pricing to compete with, with people who are like reselling free stock art, for like, for ridiculously cheap rates, or people in other countries who have a lower overhead who, are, pricing out the industry. So it's one of those things of like, what do? You flood the market and you price fairly, like for your work, and try not to fall for the trap of like to eke a living, like, taking less than, minimum wage. And that, that I saw all the time as a freelancer. I saw some really talented people who were doing work for way less than I realized. And, and you'd find out by being, quoting a client they had worked for, and they'd be like, well, so-and-so charged whatever. And you're like, really? Wow, that's crazy.
And along those lines, you had asked, like, you kind of posed the question of, like, what happens if nobody knows what good design is, like, and if everybody's expecting it to be like an off the shelf kind of thing. I think that's on us as artists, as creators, to understand and be able to articulate the value that we bring to the table.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is difficult in this situation that we've got, right, that we're talking about today. How do you articulate the value of that, design when it's a mass market, high production run, type thing? Well, that might just be like letting the design stand for itself, but doing the research to do good SEO and SEM, that lets it compete. But in other areas, there's a lot of different types of value. There's status. There's all types of different things. But, like, I've seen a lot of people start insulting people instead of educating people. And it's like, oh, if you don't know, why good illustration is valuable, then you're just, and then all the name calling starts coming out. It's like, that doesn't help. You're not actually doing something that is going to promote anything useful. And yet you see a lot of people do that.
And it's relatively unempathetic because, like I said, most artists I know, like, if you had, like, somebody pitching the idea of, like, hey, you can get, like, let's say you need to buy a new car, and you go to the dealer and they're like, this is a Honda, but it's going to cost you $5, right? Mm-hmm. You would want the $5 Honda. You're probably not going to get a running car for $5, right?
Right.
But that sure is tempting. And honestly, I would do it if I could get a running car for $5. Like, if my car broke down, I needed a car, I'm going to get the best quality I can for the lowest cost I can. That's just how we're wired. Most human beings like getting, like, we're all under budgets. So if you can come under budget and get it for cheap, great. So, but there's things that, like, and this is where it helps to kind of think about it objectively, like guitar buying, right? I have, like, these Squier guitars that are like the low end of Fender that's outsourced, right? And those are like my project guitars. Like, I mess around with them, I tinker with them, I try to make a good guitar out of a cheap guitar, right? But when it comes down to, like, when it came down to actually buying a legitimate American Fender, I was willing. And if I think about why I was willing, that helps me then sell myself, because my art is not a Squier, it's a Fender. I don't know if that makes sense. It's not an off-brand that you're going to outsource. It's the real deal, and it costs a little bit more, but the quality is better. And that's kind of what I'm getting at is, like, we have to do an active job of building our branding as people who create quality. Part of that comes with SEO. Part of that comes with client relations, right? There's an old saying in sales, and this is the hard sell versus soft sell debate that's existed in sales for years, where it's like, pretty much, I mean, anybody can sell anyone. Anyone can sell anything to anyone, but to sell something to someone again, a second time, that's skill. That's real sales. Mm-hmm. And so when you're talking about retaining clients, when you're talking about providing quality that gets a return for the customer where they come back, and and also just building that knowledge base, then you start building a brand like Fender did. Because like Fender's, American plant isn't going out of business because they have a cheaper option, because the more expensive option is always better in the case of that guitar company. And they've built a brand and built respect for it. That's what we have to do. We have to build a brand, right? DK&G is a good example too. It's like nobody's going to DK&G expecting fast food rates, and if they are, they're probably not getting them, right? People go to DK&J and they know they're going to probably have to pay a little bit because these are things that are crafted over months, right? And they're beautiful and they will sell. And that doesn't work if they don't sell, right? It doesn't work if they aren't beautiful. And it doesn't work if DK&G isn't charging fair rates, right? If they undercut themselves, they won't even be able to allow themselves the time to make great work. So it's a conundrum. But in the Amazon space, I want to hear how it goes, Scott, because I actually think if you're seeing it so saturated with bad design, it could be like Corey was describing, where it's like you're a shark and you're jumping into a very small pond where there's tiny little goldfish who think they're killing it.
I don't want it to seem like I'm the only person that like there's no good designs on there. But as you know, but the percentage isn't there. And like I said, when I'm watching these videos, there are designers out there. I found one designer that it sounds like he's doing pretty good, and it doesn't sound like he's doing a whole lot of additional marketing, like after the fact or paid ads or anything like that. I think it's based on, his designs are good, but there's not a lot of artists talking about that. So, I mean, I even thought, doing like a series where I approach that from an artist perspective, because there's so much of the other side. But I don't know that would be good for my channel, or I've got other stuff going on right now. So I mean, I probably won't do that. But I mean, I'll update you. But I'm sure this isn't something that I'm gonna see results from right away. I mean, like I said, it's very difficult in the beginning to get out of these bottom tiers, because, like I said, some ways it is a numbers game. Not that I'm going to flood with a bunch of bad designs, but I've already, like I said, I've already got a ton of good designs that I'd like to get out there, and I'm limited to what I can put out there. So I've got a few like Valentine's Day designs that I'm hoping might catch on. And then I've got, I just started coming up with some really good ideas for some St. Patrick's Day stuff that tends to be, from what I hear other people talking about. And of course, a lot of people are going into that niche, but that team tends to do really well. But I've got to get to the point, and there's certain things you can do. You can buy your way out of the tiers, which I might do some of that, because I'd like to test out some of the products, so I might buy some of those. I think to buy yourself out of the 10 and 20 tier might cost you like around $300. And then, once I get all my designs approved, I might just put a call out to, because right now the other thing to do when you're trying to get out of these tiers is you're not looking for any profit. You price them as low as you can. And then, so I'll just, I'll put a call out to people. I'll show them my designs and say, if you ever wanted a shirt from me, you want it about as cheap as you're ever going to get it. This is the time to get it now. And if you have Amazon, you get free shipping. So if you got Prime, so it might be a good idea. So I'll see if, if that does any good, but I'll, once I get out of these first few tiers, we'll see what happens. But,
I love it. It's funny too, because I'm reminded of like this too. There's inevitably still also the conundrum of like, sometimes art doesn't win, right? Sometimes sheer just blank marketing does. But so I think it's like, it's really good for us and like anybody who's like kind of listening to our show and stuff, to kind of just keep in mind like what kind of artist you want to be. Do you want to be like a hit making pop song factory, or do you want to be, a band that comes out and revolutionizes music? rarely is that completely manufactured. There's a few cases, right, where it's like manufactured, put together by a big, panel just based on sales and marketing data. But often like the better albums and like the musicians and stuff that kind of affect music are people who are really perfecting an album and really making something that's authentic and true. And then it gets ripped off and destroyed by commerce later on. But to me, it's like, I think we're all kind of the mind of like, like even Scott, like I think I find it awesome that like you've watched these videos and you aren't just going to saturate it. You're going to saturate it with good stuff, and that takes more time. But I like that about us and the artists we know, is like the idea that, I think we do care about quality because we don't want to rip customers off. Like our goal isn't to make a quick buck and leave, our goal is to please people and actually give them something they like. And I do tend to think like there's different sales paths, and sometimes the cheap, shoddy snake oil sales works, but I like that we're kind of on the end of not rolling down that path,
Yeah, and everything is a series of trade-offs. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
if we were 100, if we felt like quality, 100% quality over anything else, none of us would ever finish a page. We'd never finish an illustration. We would start one illustration, and we would work on that quality, sacrificing time, deadline, completion, everything else to make the perfect thing, and then die never having reached that. And so at some point in time, there is, even we joke about Josh's page sizes. You could be doing those 3 times as large, but at a certain size though, there's a trade-off of, is this even going to come out in a usable format? Is the detail that I'm putting in at this size even going to print? Am I going to be able to finish this thing? Perceivably, if you work 3 times the size, it might take you 20 years. And so at some point in time, there's a trade-off, and some people are like, story is more important to me than visuals, and other people are like, visuals, has a pretty high up there on the hierarchy of, whatever. And other people are like, I'm in it for the sales 100%. But I don't think that a stance that you take in that area means that you don't want anything else. I would love for my stuff to sell and to just go gangbusters or whatever. But that doesn't mean that that's my primary goal. And a lot of the people that, we've been talking about, like their primary goal is a volume game, and the design of it is low on the totem pole for them. And so the interesting thing about the marketplace is that there are customers out there for everything. And so there are the ones that value, I just want it cheap. And then there are other people that value, like I have a specific level of quality that I'm willing to pay for, and other people that value the aesthetic, other people that value the idea. But even in our customers, all of them are, it's like a series of dials rather than an on-off switch on each of those things. And so somebody might be a 2 on one and a 10 on the other, and a 3 on a third one or whatever. And the next guy is going to be like a 777, or whatever. But, categorizing people as all or nothing isn't super helpful, but yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. I don't know, Scott, anything that we talked about, does it kind of like, does it help? Does it trigger any ideas for you, or is it more?
It's definitely reassuring. I mean, this is one of those where just for inspirational purposes, I might go back and listen to, just because I'm I'm dealing with this day in and day out watching these videos and trying to take the good and trying to separate myself from some of the stuff that really just irks me. So yeah, I mean, and I'll kind of let you guys know how everything goes,
Yeah.
But it's
I tend to think that I tend to think one of the better ways, depending, but I tend to think and firmly believe in the idea that good is the right choice. And it's not always the easy choice. And in the short term, it's not always the most productive choice. And sometimes, in rare occasions, in the long term, it's not always the choice that rewards you the most. But I do think the beauty of like taking the light side, right? This is like Jedi versus Sith kind of thing. Like you're entering a space battle, Scott, in this scenario, with a lot of Sith lords out there who are killing it with their dark powers, and you're going to try to bring the light. I can't help but pick the light because I'm terrible. First off, I'm terrible at the dark side. Like I'm not good at it. And then second off, like it just is harder to defend. Like, it's harder for me to justify on my own. I feel that way all the time when I've done comic conventions too. And we've talked about that a lot, where it's really tempting to just do all fan art because you could sweep up and make a crap load of money. But there's something about not going that path. Not that that's bad. It makes
there's something about not going that path for you.
For me as an individual, yeah.
And that's kind of what we're talking about is like for some people who have different goals, they choose a different path, and that's what I love about the market is that it allows for a lot of diversity in goals and in intention.
Yeah, agreed. And there's equally potential profits and potential downfalls, and at the end of the day, either way, it's hard as crap to market things. Yeah. So if you're marketing, snake oil and you're making money, good on you. And if you're marketing, quality art and you're making money, good for you.
And I think in any situation, you can figure out the marketing. You can learn how to get the stuff out there, but it's going to be a lot better if it's better quality. It's kind of like marriages. I heard something one time where it's like, I think anybody who tries, you get two people who try can make a marriage work, but it sure is going to be a heck of a lot easier if you guys like each other. It's, you can kind of make anything work, but like if you've got two people of equal quality that are trying to make it work, that's going to be a much better relationship. And so you can kind of sell anything, but it sure is easier to sell it if it's good.
Yeah. And actually, it makes your job easier. So, all right. I think we've gone for almost 2 hours. Wow. What a cool topic. Scott, thanks for bringing that up too. Really good one.
Help me out. It was good.
And sorry, go ahead, Josh.
Where can everybody find? Sorry, I was going to say the same thing. You go.
Yeah, I was going to say we've been talking about all of your designs. Where can they find those designs if they would like to?
Well, some of the designs you can find at circworks.com. Not the shirts and stuff. Actually, the shirts, if you go to my YouTube channel right now you might want to wait off that because you can, like I said, I'll be able to offer some of those shirts cheaper as soon as I get them live. But if you want to get some other stuff, I got a store at circworks.com. I also have my digital products, comic maker toolkit, all that stuff. There's some new fonts and a bunch of stuff for making comics in there. So yeah.
Josh, where can we find your stuff?
You can find my stuff at joshuakemble.com or quarterlystories.com. And that's where you can find my story about faith and mental illness. And then you're on my channel. So if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and hit that bell. And Corey, where can everybody find your stuff?
You can find my stuff at coreykerr.com. And right now I'm doing a ton on Instagram, a little bit on YouTube. So check out the Instagram stuff, and if you'd like to venture into the unknown, go find me on TikTok. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm putting more stuff up every week, so yeah. But it's all there at coreykerr.com. So All right. Thanks. You guys are awesome. Go make good stuff because it's easier to sell. We'll see you in a couple days.